The night Daniel Carter finally broke was the night he realized love had turned him into a prisoner. For 3 years, he had worked 5 jobs. 5 exhausting, soul-crushing jobs that barely allowed him to sleep. Every morning began before sunrise, and every night ended long after the city lights dimmed. His hands were rough, his eyes permanently tired, and his dreams, long forgotten, and he had done it all for his ex-wife, Melissa. What Daniel didn't know was that the woman he sacrificed everything for was telling a very different story, and the truth would change his life forever. 3 years earlier, Daniel believed he had the perfect marriage. Melissa was charming, confident, and beautiful. When they met, she seemed full of life. She laughed loudly, dreamed big, and promised Daniel that together they would build something extraordinary. Daniel was a quiet man. Honest. Hardworking. Loyal. He worked as a warehouse supervisor and lived a simple life. He didn't need luxury or attention. All he wanted was stability, love, and a future with someone who appreciated him. Melissa said she did, but after their wedding, things slowly began to change. At first, it was small things. Melissa loved expensive restaurants, designer bags, weekend trips with her friends. Daniel thought it was harmless. He wanted her to be happy, so he paid when he could. Then the credit cards came. Melissa had 3 of them. Soon it became 5. Every month, the bills grew larger. Relax, she would laugh whenever Daniel looked worried. We'll pay it later. Daniel trusted her, but later came much sooner than expected. One evening, Melissa walked into their apartment looking pale and nervous. We have a problem, she said. Daniel's stomach dropped. Melissa revealed the truth she had hidden for months. She owed over $120,000 in credit card debt, designer shopping sprees, luxury hotels, online purchases, interest rates climbing like wildfire. Daniel felt the world collapse around him. How did this happen? He whispered. Melissa cried. I didn't want you to worry, she said. But if we don't pay it soon, they'll destroy my credit, our future. Daniel didn't yell. He didn't blame her. He just did what he always did. He took responsibility. I'll fix it, he said. That moment would become the beginning of his prison. Daniel's life transformed overnight. His warehouse job wasn't enough anymore. So he found a second job delivering food in the evenings, then a third job stocking shelves at a supermarket after midnight, then weekend construction work, then early morning janitorial shifts at an office building. 5 jobs. His schedule became brutal. 4:30 a.m., cleaning offices. 7:00 a.m., warehouse shift. 5:30 p.m., food delivery. 9:30 p.m., supermarket stocking. Weekends, construction site. Sleep became a luxury. Meals were eaten in the car. Sometimes he worked 36 hours straight, but every paycheck went toward the debt, and every time he paid a large portion of it, Melissa seemed strangely unconcerned. Instead of gratitude, she seemed annoyed whenever Daniel was too tired to talk. You never spend time with me anymore, she complained. Daniel apologized. He promised it was temporary, but the debt barely shrank. Interest piled up and Melissa kept spending. A year later, their marriage collapsed. Melissa filed for divorce. Her reason? I can't be married to someone who's never around. Daniel was stunned. He reminded her he worked constantly to pay her debt. Melissa simply shrugged. You chose to do that, she said coldly. During the divorce, the court ruled Daniel was responsible for most of the debt because it had been accumulated during their marriage. The final number left Daniel numb. $87,000. Even after a year of brutal work, Daniel felt betrayed. But he still believed one thing. If he just finished paying it, he could finally move on. So he kept working. 5 jobs every single day. 3 years later, Daniel was almost finished. Only $6,000 remained. It felt like the end of a nightmare. That evening, he finished a food delivery near a trendy downtown restaurant. His feet hurt, his back burned. He decided to step inside quickly to use the restroom. As he walked past the bar, a familiar voice froze him in place. Melissa. Daniel instinctively stopped. She was sitting with 3 friends, laughing loudly, dressed in expensive clothes Daniel could never afford. He hadn't seen her in over a year. At first, he planned to leave quietly, but then he heard something that made his blood run cold. Melissa raised her glass and laughed. Honestly, she said, my ex-husband is the best thing that ever happened to me. Her friends leaned closer. Why? One asked. Melissa smirked. Because he's still paying off my debt. The table erupted in laughter. Daniel felt his heart pound. Another friend asked, wait, seriously? Melissa nodded proudly. Oh yeah. Daniel works like 5 jobs. That idiot thinks he's being responsible. More laughter. One woman asked, does he know you never planned to pay it yourself? Melissa leaned back confidently, of course not. She took a sip of her drink, I call him my personal slave. The words hit Daniel like a punch. 3 years of free labor, Melissa continued proudly. Best deal of my life. Her friends laughed again. One even said, that's savage. Melissa shrugged, he was always too nice. Guys like that are easy to control. Daniel stood frozen in the hallway, his chest felt tight. 3 years of pain. 3 years of sacrifice. 3 years believing he was doing the honorable thing, and the woman he once loved had been mocking him the entire time. Something inside Daniel finally snapped, but strangely, instead of anger, he felt something else, freedom. For the first time in years, Daniel realized something important. He had been living for someone who never respected him, but that ended tonight. Daniel walked out of the restaurant silently, the cool night air hit his face. For a long moment, he simply stood there breathing. Then he did something he had never done before. He opened his phone and called a lawyer. 2 weeks later, Melissa received a letter that ruined her perfect evening. Daniel had discovered something during the legal consultation, something Melissa never expected, a financial loophole. Hidden charges on accounts that were solely under her name, purchases made after their separation, fraudulent transfers she had tried to hide. With the right legal strategy, Daniel could challenge thousands of dollars of the remaining debt. The case moved quickly, and when the court finished reviewing the evidence, Melissa was ordered to take responsibility for a large portion of the remaining balance. Her smug confidence disappeared overnight, but Daniel didn't celebrate. Because something more important had already happened. He had finally reclaimed his life. 6 months later, Daniel worked only one job. He slept normally. He started going to the gym. He reconnected with old friends, and slowly, the exhaustion in his eyes disappeared. One evening, he sat in a quiet park watching the sunset. For the first time in years, he felt peace. An older man sitting nearby struck up a conversation. You look like someone who just escaped something difficult, the man said. Daniel smiled. Yeah, he replied. I escaped the wrong person. The man nodded wisely. Sometimes the hardest lesson in life, he said, is learning that kindness without boundaries becomes self-destruction. Daniel thought about that for a moment, then he looked at the orange sky fading into night. For years, he believed strength meant sacrifice, but now he understood the truth. Real strength meant knowing when to stop giving yourself to people who only take. And as Daniel stood up to leave the park, he finally felt something he hadn't felt in a very long time, hope. Because his life was no longer about surviving someone else's mistakes, it was finally about building his own future.